So there's a misconception that if you're single, you are incomplete, perhaps damaged, salvaged, and you won't be happy until you find your one. And that is not true. That is bullshit. It is a message that has been fed to us by media and advertising. The truth is, when you're single, you have the richest soil for growth. That's why I created this podcast. And unlike other podcasts, this one is host-driven, not guest-driven. That means I will be rotating health and wellness experts 3 times a week to give you the giant box of wellness crayons, not just the primary colors, so you can start building a meaningful life. It's time to give singlehood a cape. Today's host is someone I go way back with. His name is Sean Cardinalli. Sounds like a baseball player. He's a coach, writer, and activist who returned to coaching on sex and love addiction at the outset of the pandemic after a 4-year hiatus. He speaks the language, and his coaching style tends to lean toward 12-step recovery, which saved his own life and livelihood 14 years ago. He's also very transparent. Sean earned his local certification through Linda Bark's holistic coaching methodology and is pursuing his ICF certification and a degree in social work. So beyond sex and love addiction, Sean's practice focuses on intimacy, relationships, divorce, dating, and the creative process. Enjoy Sean Cardinalli.
Hi, Alan.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm well. How are you doing, man?
You know, I was watching Professional Power Slap earlier. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I've seen burly dudes smacking, right? But just like real
Yes.
quick, like on IG. But but nothing. Yeah.
Oh,
watching like there's a channel.
I was watching
on
it. YouTube and Instagram. I was watching it, and it's just these guys standing there, and then they count down. I'm going to slap on 3, and then they do these rotations as they practice, and then
they wind up.
They wind up. They cock their and then bam, slap each other in the face. Okay, I'm just watching it. I'm like, this is for like out of shape guys. This is like a professional league for out of shape guys who can't do MMA, so they're going to just slap each other. I don't get it.
How's the pot? Is there like if it's $10,000, I might get my face slapped the shit.
I have no idea. I just watch them, and they're pretty cool. I mean, you know, when you see somebody hit the floor after being slapped, you're like, really? That didn't look that hard. Come on.
But then there's some that you think are just going to knock their head off, and they just take it, and they like
exactly.
It's like the bull, like the red in the bull's eye. They're like, oh shit! Now they're going to come back with a wallop. It's weird, man.
It's weird. I don't get it. See, to me, that's a straight thing that I just don't get.
Well, they're a lot, but you don't know. There might be some bears in there because that's what I was going to say. Those guys are like mainly Russian
that's true.
Or Eastern Bloc.
That's true.
I'm dating myself.
That's true.
Cold War reference, Eastern Bloc. But yeah,
we're trying to get baback there anyway. So
we got to be there in a minute. Anyway. Hi everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome. We just starting with a little non sequitur. We were going to discuss today, Alan, depression, with a very early caveat, because of course, grown men slapping each other for meager means leads right into a discussion about depression. And wanted to say very early on, neither of us are psychologists, psychiatrists, in our coaching or in our personal lives, not depression experts. However, we both do suffer forms of depression. Yeah. And we thought it would be a little pertinent because being single, being alone, can, as I was through the entirety of COVID, the entire pandemic, can exacerbate, right? Or have you catastrophize or spiral, or it's quiet all around and there's no one there and it's very loud in my head. And so then I have to find a way to manage that. And frankly, since you and I are recovery brothers, I think a lot of the 12-step recovery tools and my therapy have helped. But that's what we were going to go over today and how we've coped. And maybe, again, a nod toward what do you do when you're single or even single on purpose. And then you're like, well, but fuck, like I'm just stuck in my head today and it's not a good day as far as the chemicals or the situation, whether it's nature or nurture, right? Everything all around or just within, what to do and how to handle it. You want to kick it off and tell me like, what's your earliest memory of a depressive bout? And do you know the origin, or did it just come?
See, to me, there are degrees of depression. You know, I've had moments or bouts of like acute depression, but I think I've had chronic depression for longer periods where it's, you know, I think my teen years was chronic depression, and then it was acute post high school into early college. Depression was just, it threw me off. It completely threw me off. And then it went back to like this chronic thing for a while until I got meds and got better therapy and things like that. But to me, there was most of my teen years, I would say, was just chronic low grade depression.
Do you think now, like I was mentioning, the nature versus nurture, do you think it was something that burbled up in your brain, or was it because of prior incidents? And I'm asking you this because you're my brother, not because it like some out of weird curiosity, but did it have anything to do with your sexual growth, your sexual history? Because I can't remember if you like, were you in the closet ever, or were you always out and like, but the family was like, what the fuck? Like, what, does any of that play into it? And were you ever having to hide your being gay?
Oh, interesting. And I say that because I had this memory earlier today of, God, we had moved into our new house and I had depression, you know.
How old?
But I was probably 13, 14, but I was like acting out where I was shoplifting things. And so I was like taking action figures, fitness men's magazines, posters of men, and I hid them in the closet. And
there you go.
and I hid them in the closet. And one afternoon, we're outside washing the cars and my brother comes running out of the house. So I'm 13, 14, and he's 10. And he's so excited. Mom, look what I found in the closet. Look what I found in the closet.
Oh, shit.
And I was mortified. All of it.
Was it the G.I. Joes, or was it the...
He brought all of it. He brought all of it. He brought
like,
all of it.
Santa came early and Santa's queer, apparently. It's gay Santa Claus.
Oh my God. I was like watching the whole incident unfold from like 30,000 feet away, watching through these little eyes. What the hell is happening? Like literally coming out of the closet that way.
Sweating? Yeah.
Oh, it was like this cold sweat. I mean, it's not even like actual water. It's just like, I think I'm going to pass out. I think I'm going to die here. And my mom like looks at all of it. And then she's like, maybe the previous owners left it here.
Good cover. Holy shit. For a 10-year-old, that's a pretty good on the fly cover. Oh, that was probably...
No, that was my mom. Yeah, that was my mom to him. Yeah. Oh,
no,
yeah.
That's what I mean. That's a good for her. Like just like thinking it was. She's like, here, it's
exactly,
son. Give me those. Please.
Oh yeah. Oh, pretty much, yeah. So at that point, my family knew I was gay. I'm just saying. There was
because there was no Scarlet, right? There was no Scarlet. There was no what was the Mistress Cobra, whatever. It was all like Snake Eyes and like
Snake Eyes.
And like.
All of it, and wrestlers and everything like that. Oh yeah, and it was like wrestlers.
It wasn't any porn.
Oh, like No, they were just like
No.
exercise. They were exercise fitness magazines. So, I mean, the men are like in Speedos, right? So, I mean, it's just Tiger Beat, right? All of this stuff. Oh my God.
So it was so there was G.I. Joe action figures, probably like Schwarzenegger or Ferrigno back in those days.
Yes.
And then David Cassidy or something. Well, no, 13.
Oh, no, it was Menudo. It was
It was the
Menudo.
80s. Yeah, so Menudo.
So,
Okay.
Menudo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And back and New Kids on the Block, dude. That
Tiger Beat.
Oh my God.
That's gonna be the name of this. This episode is gonna be named
Tiger Beat.
How we dealt with depression.
Dude.
Or how depression befell us.
Oh yeah. So at that point, then like 14, it's like depression. I mean, because like how do you deal with that? Right. I mean, I was mortified. Yeah. Mortified. But at the same time, I think it made coming out, a few years later easier because my parents at that point were like, okay, clearly he's gay, duh.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Did you in high school with that was sort of the low grade, the chronic? Mm-hmm. Did you try to date girls? Did you try to assimilate and just see, even though you knew how you felt? No. You were like, nah.
Nah, I knew. I mean, I knew. It would not be fair to any woman, because it's like, I knew, and I know when I went to college, this girl I was friends with, she tells me, she's like, oh, I broke up with my boyfriend to go out with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I need to let you know I'm gay. And she's like, what? And I'm like, sorry. She's like,
sorry, not sorry.
Exactly. I'm like, sorry. She's like, but I broke up with my boyfriend. Oh, well.
Wow.
Maybe you can go back with him.
Right.
Oh, I know. She's like, well, can you kiss me at least and see? And I'm like,
wow.
I guess so. It was like the only woman I've ever kissed. Yeah. And I was just like, I just started laughing halfway through. I'm like, ugh, no. No.
This one, I'm glad to do the video recordings now. This has to be, any of your facial expressions the last 3 minutes have to be the screen caps for this fucking one. Because it's great. You're so expressive. You're like the black Jim Carrey.
Yeah, no. I mean, I knew from an early age. And so it was just one of those things that it was like, there's no need to do that. I do know that all of my depression is rooted in childhood trauma,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that. I mean, I see where it comes from. And I mean, that's a whole nother,
that's like 3 other podcasts. That's like a trilogy podcast.
Yeah.
If that. All right. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate how you're mentioning it got acute in college. And I'm going to share my little story going up to college and then compare notes. So I remember, I think there's always something a little there. Because you can't have your dad abandon you at birth and not have some kind of existential self-worth issue, right? Some deep, even as a little kid, right? It's like, oh, it's my mom and we're cool and it's the 2 of us and she did her fucking best. And thank God I have a huge extended family. You've met some of them, but 17 first cousins and all that. So I had a big support system, very social, which is definitely how I am to this day. But here and there, all that alone time, some of it feels creative and quiet or, meditative. And some of it feels this weight, right? And then once I got my next dad, my new dad, my namesake dad, I specifically remember, and that's where the porn and alcoholism and emotional and physical abuse all came to the fore. So it's duh. Now we're going to get into it. Now my brain is going to start doing whatever, calcifying, doing whatever it needs to do to protect itself. But unfortunately, that's it's in the mode of shutting me down. And I'm very creative. I'm very right-brained. I write. I used to draw nonstop. And so that actually was a coping mechanism before and during the porn even, because the acting out for me wasn't hiding all the the stealing and hiding them in the closet, but it was just drawing nonstop. So there was good acting out. I can't call it good acting out. Let's not like muddy the waters there, but there was good.
There were healthy outlets.
Yes, there you go. Outlets. Thank you. I mean, there are stacks and stacks. There are albums of my art still. I mean, from like 8 years old to about 18. Oh, dude, nice. I was creative as fuck. So I would stay in my room, and this is when like the shit would hit the fan even more. This is like when I'm like 3rd grade, and then I skipped to 5th grade. And I remember during those years in this one room, this very nice big room, this big, huge 2-story duplex we were in that my dad owned, and hardwood floors and everything, very old, 1940s. And the sun would come in a certain way during the day or during the morning. But one Saturday, I just couldn't get out of bed. And I had a TV in my room. I was very spoiled. I had a little black and white TV and then later a color TV in my room way before any of the other kids did. I come from a ton of privilege. So I never, as much as we talk about the addiction, we talk about depression, we talk about anxiety or whatever, or being abandoned. There's a slight salve in my family's money. It doesn't cure anything, but I never want people to misunderstand that, it wasn't like we were about to be thrown out on our ass. Like I had plenty of resources and tools. Even if my parents didn't use them, we still had that comfort. I'm not going to bullshit about that at all. That material comfort, right? That buffer. Right. So anyway, I just remember one weekend, I didn't get out of bed till like 3, and it was like hot. And even if I was uncomfortable, I just was like, what am I doing? I kept rolling over and going back to sleep more, and then rolling over and going back to sleep more. And then like, I don't want to do anything today. Like, why wouldn't I call my buddy Michael? Why wouldn't I see what John's doing? Why wouldn't I go hang out with my dog or something? It was weird, and I just could not get up. I wasn't motivated to do anything. Right. And that was kind of off and on all the way through junior high, because things got worse in junior high. And then the shit really hit the fan freshman year of high school. I was smaller than everybody else. I was 4'11" as a freshman because I was younger. I graduated when I was 17. So I was 14 as a freshman. Usually I think people are 15 or whatever. And, my dad's shit went out into the world. Like our private lives were made public. Talk about fucking mortifying, right? That was my cold sweat and my reveal. I'm like, oh my God, like all these secrets and lies and bullshit are now, and I had kids coming up to me with, was that your dad in the newspaper? I'm like, yes. Like, what the fuck do you say, right? It's like, it's like teens are teens. They're just going to like either fuck with you or be genuinely curious. And I'm like, fuck either way. I'm like, oh, good. Let's talk about this. Yeah, this will help. This will help my psyche, my disposition. So I found the crew, my homies. Yep. You've met, I think, all of them. And, the crew are these 5-6 guys, still friends with to this day, same age as you and me, almost 50. Damon's 50 already. You old motherfucker, if you're listening. And we really gelled. Our friendship like solidified sophomore, junior, and senior year. So that acted as this buffer. And then similar to what you're saying, I went to college and I thought it was going to be great. I was at Berkeley. It's this amazing historical campus, like prestigious, all the protests, all of this, and the personality and the colors and the music, and it's the Bay Area, which I love. And nothing could get me out of this persistent funk. Like I was fish out of water no matter what. We had a party like the first week in the dorms as freshmen. At the end of the hall, Ida Sproul Hall, 7th floor, 20 people were in this like 8x8 room and out into the hallway, and we're blasting music on my stereo and everything, like CDs, right? 91, 92, 93, the music was fucking amazing. It's just amazing on every level, hip hop, rock, everything. And I could never convert that. I didn't really make those people didn't become my friends. I just isolated. And I did a ton of poetry. That was one huge outlet. All of a sudden the drawing switched to poetry. And I wrote more poems in about a year-long span than the rest of my life. Probably 1,000, like it or more than. I mean, just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But I never could get rid of that. I was like, why? Like I was going home to the family that I had wanted to run away from, that I was happy to get away from when I graduated high school after all that clusterfuck that I just mentioned. And I could never, it was untenable. It was there, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't have the tools like you and I do now through
Right.
therapy and 12-step to handle. It was weird, dude. I couldn't. Yeah, it just
No,
hit me.
I it's nice to hear that you use a creative outlet like poetry and writing and things like that. I walked. I mean, I became like, I isolated and then I would walk, right? And so I would walk for hours. And like for a long period of time, that's how I have dealt with depression the most, is through walking. But um it just, my walks needed longer and longer to get out of my head, right? So like I was walking hours and hours before I could get out of my head. Uh, I think it probably started with like a loop that was probably like 2 miles. And then by the end of the 2 miles, I was still stuck in my head. So then I had to go around again and again and again. And so like by the time, I would say, 10, 15 years ago, I still think I'm much younger than I am. So when I have to say dates like 10 years ago, it just,
like, no,
it gives me
40
depression.
No. It gives me depression right now. Real time. Everyone's getting a real time experience.
Real time. Yeah. So then I had to go walk more and more. And so it wasn't until later that I added writing to kind of get out.
Would you, when you're walking, was it for the cardiovascular, like the physical, to sort of literally burn it out, or was like stretch your muscles, or was it nature or just being out? Because for me, getting into a park, even walking through a city, and just being almost like a tourist, which I do anyway. When we were in New York last year, I mean, you just look at everything, you just soak in everything. That would be also a similar outlet for me. I would just get out of the four walls that were closing in, and I would walk up and down like Telegraph and back around again, through, we had a eucalyptus grove at Cal. Like the whole west part of the campus is this, huge grove that smelled great because it's eucalyptus. So I would do shit like that, but it wasn't like, I wasn't thinking like I do now. I'm going to go to the gym and burn that out. I fucking love that because you can feel your brain shift as you're like sweating and exerting. But back then it was more, it was just to get out, literally just out of my head, out of my space.
I think for me, it was to walk out of a depressive state. I think because like my depression, I was like so into my head and so insulated and so isolated that even being outdoors, I didn't see anything around me. So the walking, and so I'd go walking at night, or I'd go walking early in the morning, dark. I mean, so I'd go walking down.
What I did.
Yeah, I'd go walking the bosque down, by the river at like 4 a.m. So I'd get up 4 a.m. I'd go walk up like miles from my house in the dark. And then I'd pass some people every once in a while who had headlamps. And I'm like, maybe I should get a headlamp. Yeah. But I didn't because it took that long for me to like literally walk out of the darkness until it was light. And then I could go, oh, okay. Then I was getting out of my head.
Wow. That's potent, man. That's powerful to hear. And bosque, for anybody, for the gringos and anybody not from New Mexico, bosque is like the woods or forest that are on either side. They're cottonwoods, a type of oak tree on either side of the Rio Grande here in Albuquerque, and all the way down even south past Albuquerque. But so when Alan was saying bosque, he was walking through basically the woods, forest. I don't know.
Yeah. And I would pass this woman who would be walking towards me, and I could hear her suitcase because she was homeless.
Wait,
and she would be, yes, she was homeless, and she'd pull her suitcase behind her. But she was always dressed to the nines. So wherever she was sleeping, she would get dressed and then walk with her suitcase. And I would pass her at some point, and it took weeks of me saying hello to her before she even acknowledged me. And like she would just walk right past me, like I wasn't even there.
Your characters in a recurring story. She was the Crystal Waters woman. She was who the song was after. Like she just looks good.
La da dee, la da da, la da dee.
Yeah. And she's homeless.
Yabba dabba doo, yabba dabba dee, yabba dabba doo.
So she didn't acknowledge you till
at least 3 weeks. But every morning I would say hello, have a good day, hello, nothing. And I know it made sense. I mean, it's like, here's this guy who's like 6'1", dark complected, walking towards you in the night.
And it didn't matter. Alan has not only the height, but you're a big dude.
Yeah. And so he's walking towards her, and it didn't matter that she's a Black woman walking towards me, right? It was just one of those things. It didn't matter. It was, at that point, it's just gender, right? It's just like, I'm a woman. This is a man walking towards me. I'm not even going to give him any kind of acknowledgement, and it's dark. So, my fierce walk in the middle of the night is not something she can exactly see, right? So she doesn't see this big old queen coming at her. She's just like, I just see a man coming at me in the dark.
This queen. I want to share. I'm surprised. I wonder, have you written about that? Because, we're both writers and you are really good at the short stories and picking up the nuances and the textures and the tones of a story like that. I can totally see you writing that and talking about the leaves and the sand under your feet and the sound of the wheels rolling behind her.
Yeah.
The suitcase wheels.
The click of her suitcase. Yeah.
I wanted so that's enough. Put it on the list. These are the things that I always tell Alan, like, write, motherfucker. And he does all the time. But there are a couple of stories that you have stashed. And I'm like, God damn it. And one of them you promised by the end of this year. And we're already in spring. So, you've got 9 months left. But there is a website, because I did want to, again, to clarify for everyone listening, not therapists, not psychologists, psychiatrists, and not experts on depression. We're sharing our experiences, similar to our 12, so experience, strength, and hope. And so I do want to share some of the hope and the strength and hear some of your coping skills and share some of mine and what I found online. It's literally the first link that came up because I wanted to at least give folks a list. People like lists, and see if you relate or don't to some of these. There are 12, but the last 2 are like, go to other links. So I'm going to leave those alone. But exercise regularly, eat healthy foods. Oh, so by the way, this is a list of 12 steps to, it says overcome. I love the word manage instead. I don't say control. I don't say beat down. We are practiced. You and I are practiced in surrender, right?
Right.
I call it if it were Kung Fu, it's the way of the open hand. Like, it's not the squashed fist. It's the surrender, letting go, opening the fist and having the open palm. So 12 ways to manage depression. Exercise regularly, eat healthy foods. I could definitely do more of the latter. Dude, I cheated again with McDonald's today. It's terrible. Dude, I'm like, one of these is going to be the cancer causing one. Like, one of these is going to be like, bing, it's going to hit that cell and something's going to, it sucks. I'm like, dude, I got to stop. Yeah. It's not an addiction, but it's pretty bad. So
it's addictive though.
It is addictive.
It's addictive.
It's just salt and fats. And so anyway, exercise regularly, getting back on that. I did. Right. Got to get back. So we both have been sharing about that. Reasonable amount of sleep. I never sleep reasonably. Never.
You don't. No, you don't.
Never.
No, you don't.
Never.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Do you have a regular sleep pattern?
Yes. And part of it is because I have forced myself, so like I will turn off the TV about an hour before I go to bed.
You do that whole precursor thing. I am not so disciplined.
Yeah.
No way.
And then I will either read, sometimes I'll do the crossword. So it's still like so in the screen.
60 this year, not 50. Pretty soon you'll be reading Agatha Christie. Just like I do
read Agatha Christie.
Okay. That's either your age or you're being a queen. It's one or the other, or both.
But I do like mystery thrillers, so I read those as well. That's funny. But like, I don't mind listening to the radio because like I'll listen to a baseball game or music, but I turn off the screen portion and then I'll read, and then I will try and meditate before, so that I can shut my brain. I do meditate regularly. And so that I do that before I go to bed so that I can like help shut down the thoughts. But it has to be like I have to do it.
So since this is single on purpose podcast, is it easier to keep with this routine when you're solo, or did you do it with your last boyfriend, or did it break? Was it less regular?
It started being less regular, and then near the end, I had to go back to it because I needed it for myself. Yeah. I needed it for myself. And I think that kind of contributed to, it was one of the contributing factors, because he'd be like, well, I'm going to watch this show. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, aren't you going to watch it with me? And I said, no, like I have to get up early tomorrow, for work.
You could have 4 or something still, right?
Well, now it's about 5, but like still, it's like, I'm like, you have to get up early too in the morning, so it's like, but it's sorely like, I think it contributed to us separating a bit.
But that's interesting. And God damn it, like each of our podcasts is like a Russian doll, could be a whole other fucking fractal tangent thing. But also though, the relationship was getting kind of rocky. And I feel like that move was you taking back your routine for yourself.
For myself, yes.
Yeah, and being like, well, yes. I don't know what's going to happen with this relationship, but I'm not going to like fuck with my depressiveness, my addiction, or any of these other things that I'm managing. Right. So I'm going to get back to routine, which is good.
Right.
It's good for you, which is actually a good note for anyone who's, looking into depression themselves is like that sort of for you. What can I do? Yes. I tell one of the things on this list is, where is it? Create a list of small goals to achieve. Check them off as you accomplish them. My little caveat with that one is, and what I've told other like clients of mine when I'm coaching is, if you are just stuck, if the gears are just grinding, like you just cannot go, and you got 8 things to do in the day, and you're getting more and more depressed and even maybe anxious because you're like, oh my God, the clock is just ticking and I can't move. I say just pick one and pick the easiest one, just so you can go like, bing, fuck you, depression. I did that. I brushed my fucking teeth even, like whatever. My rule, dude, for myself, and I stick to it like with an adherence that you probably do to the sleeping, because again, and I know my sleeping is completely jacked. It always has been. I'm rarely at the service of my sleeping cycle. But my rule for myself with the depression is get out of bed. At least just get out of bed. And in the darkest part of 2021, which maybe is another podcast, but when I was really facing some core shit, and in a good constructive way, but it still was very, very, very depressive. There was one day where I just like one leg, 2 legs, was grabbing onto that pillow like, no, I'm just going to roll over. And I was like, no, just get a foot. And my bed is like a pillow top. So, and I'm only 5'8". So I'm like, where's the floor? Fuck, it's reaching out to the floor. Like a little, like a fucking Muppet, like Kermit's legs, just like dangling all, and it was one. And I was like, okay. And then I put my weight on my feet, right? I leaned forward. I mean, literally I'm like going through the mechanics of getting my body out of bed. To get the day going. And it worked. I have yet to succumb like I did when I was that little boy at 9 years old, sleeping till 3. So that was a nice circle back around. I can get the fuck out of the bed. Now I still wrestle, but
with going to bed. So I
still wrestle with the depression the rest of the day, whether for a couple hours or for if it's really hitting me like 3/4 of the day until the evening. And I'm like, woo! I'm like fucking Prince, like the t-shirt I'm wearing. I'm like, let's fucking party like it's 1999. And I just get all this energy back again, which is
So,
again the sleep.
well, let me ask about that sleep, because I had this thought.
Come
and it
closer.
goes back to something. It goes back to something we talked about the last time when you mentioned, you and your girl and about moving in, and is a reticence to moving in because you would have to start to sleep on a schedule because now there's another person there.
Okay, I kind of feel like that's a gotcha question, but I love you. And
Gotcha.
then I'll be like, fuck you, Alan, because my lady is kind of a night owl like I am. So
yes,
like,
okay.
No,
Okay.
but for real, it just so happens that we have this really cool thing where it's gonna be a whole other tangent, dude. I'm trying to like not be as loquacious as we both are, but for recording purposes. She can just totally chill and do her thing, and I can chill and do my thing, and it's just great being in the same room together. And she even put up a cute little IG one day about it. There was a perfect little animated meme, almost looked like anime, or not manga, but yeah, a little like cutesy whatever. And it was just like she's doing her thing over on the couch. I'm over here at the kitchen table. But it'll be like midnight, and all of a sudden, like she'll finally pass out, and I'll be like, oh, she stops answering back when I'm like checking in on her. So no, the reticence to moving in is
you don't have to answer that part. I was just wondering if on your part, that like when your sleep issues, if now there's going to be somebody there to go to bed with on a regular basis, you can't, after a while be like, well, you go to bed and then I'm just going to be up.
So far, I'll tell you, and it's only like months, like not even half a year. So far, it's been a mix. Sometimes we're like, let's go to bed, and we have a great sex life. So it's like, let's go to bed and have fun, then go to sleep. And then sometimes she will pass out on the couch, and I'm still going. She was rubbing my head the other night while we were watching Sandman. How appropriate! And I passed the fuck out on her. So and then she woke me up. So it's been a mix, but to be continued, because it's a good question, and so is that little gotcha about moving in. That is a whole other podcast. I have no like fear. I just don't want to do it yet. It's a space thing, and she's
I get that.
She's over like 3-4 nights out of the week anyway, more than half the week, most often. So I'm comfortable. This is not what this fucking podcast is about. But anyway,
and because I think when we talk about depression, we think that it's like one direct thing, like, oh, if I go and fix this one thing, then my depression is going to go away. And for me, it's an amalgam of things that are going on in my head that after a while they get to a point and it's either I haven't looked at something, I haven't addressed something, I haven't accepted something, and all of those are the factors that lead to depression in addition to the chemical.
That is the podcast fucking commercial right there, because I have a very similar fucking experience. It's usually like, so last year was dealing with finally a huge core thing was revealed to me, right? I did breath work, I did therapy, I did this thing, I did that thing, I was coaching. We were coming out of COVID, early 2022, and part of it, a good chunk of 2021, much tougher than 2020. And I was like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And I had obvious stressors like financial ones and a couple other things, and career ones. But this was the gold mine below, right? This was the, oh my God, the vein of gold, like way down. And so I was fascinated with the reveal finally. And it happened actually with Brandon Grew, you haven't met, but I've done podcasts with him. He's a breathwork coach and a men's work coach.
Okay.
Dude, I have to plug him and say, dude, I think you would really appreciate the breath work. So this shit was revealed. This core stuff was revealed. And I asked for it. Like, I went into the session with him going, I got to find out what this is, because I know that there's something. It's the tip. It's the, now we all use the iceberg analogy.
Right.
I know there's
Right.
something massive underneath the water. I was like,
Right.
but I can't quite put my finger on it, or I'm in such deep denial that I'm dancing around. I just keep looking around the tip and not under the
Mhm.
water. We go into the session, I come out going, fuck. So in a way, the reason why I say, because I was going to come into this session with you today going like, I'm going to talk about dark night of the soul, but it wasn't even that mystifying. I can't think of the phrase. It was difficult, and it was and hitting on this self-worth issue was what it was in the end. Kind of like when you find sadness underneath the anger or the rage or the anxiety up above, right? Those are like the secondary emotions, and you finally go, boom, I'm actually really sad. That's my 5-year-old self. That's my 9-year-old self who was right. This was that mine. And so having finally gotten some clarity on that and having it reveal itself and just blow me out of the water, I still was depressed. I'm on bupropion right now. And I finally started taking drugs about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, because the chronic depression, like you were saying, like it would be the morning for a little bit and a few days a week. Then it would be every day of the week just for a little bit. Then it would be every day of the week till 10 a.m. if I'm getting up at like 6 or 7. Then past lunch. Then get into the afternoon. I'm like, okay, 3/4 of my day now is me wrestling with myself. And I really relate to how you're talking about. It's something that hasn't been addressed or accepted or needs surrendered or released. I had a very, very similar scenario. And so when I got that core issue revealed, asked for it and got it. Thank you, universe, and thank you, Brandon. And you were one of the angels. Holy shit, everybody. Let me give Alan props while I'm here. I call you, Brandon, a friend of mine, Kieran, and I think my sponsor, and I can't say his name. You're my 4 angels, because in 4 different conversations or exchanges or experiences with you all at the beginning of 2022, that core depressiveness, that self-worth, whatever, it was unlocked. I didn't know it was a self-worth thing, and I'm not going to define it more than that. That's for me, but that's what it was. And even consciously going like, oh, maybe I just don't, think this way about myself or that way. This was going, oh, now I get it and get why. And this is why there are all these layers. And no matter what I do, and you and me are out there like gregarious, social, writers, music, pop culture. You were great at my 4/8. I still remember like all 6. I thought you were 6'3" because you even look bigger than 6'1". But I remember you and me and a couple other people like dancing at my 4/8 and stuff and just having a blast. But no one has any idea all the iceberg,
the interior, no,
under the water. And so tapping that and having you and a couple people sort of help me exorcise that with an O.
Yeah.
My depression, which still prevailed in 2022, it lessened, but it was still prevalent. But I had kind of a why, which is what I tell all my clients not to fuck with. I'm like, don't worry about the why. Let's just get into the how to surrender it. But yeah, so I'm gonna shut the fuck up now because that was kind of a long run.
No, that's good. I was thinking about like when it comes to getting out of depression, I will say that I know that even today when I am in a depressive state, right? So where I just feel melancholy, I feel it's not even nostalgia. Maybe there's like a wistfulness. It's depression. I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to. And it's like surrendering to the depression. I know that taking a shower usually always pulls me out of it. Like if I have to take a shower and if I have to shave, usually I have to shave too, because I let my beard, that's self-care. I let my beard go, all whatever. And then I have to shave. So it's like, if I take a shower and I shave, that self-care, it pulls me out of it. Almost like, I want to say like 100% of the time, it pulls me out of it. And I know that. And so I avoid it.
Oh, I was just about to ask you. So then do you do the thing like I do? Do you get your feet on the ground? Do you get into the shower when it's really bad? You'll skip and you'll still kind of stay in the sauce for a minute in the stew.
Yes.
For how long?
Yeah.
A day?
At least
Mhm.
until it's time that I have to re-enter world. I have to re-enter society. I have to deal with, right?
You need an extrinsic motivation. Something outside of yourself forces you to go ahead and shave and shower, and then you do it. And do you feel better?
Well, I always feel better, and I wouldn't. It's extrinsic, but it's also that I need. I'm done wallowing, and now I'm ready to accept. Like there's
Okay.
no. I've reached a point where it's just like, look, it is what it is. Wallowed. Now,
Mhm.
it's time to put on your big boy pants and go out there and do whatever it is that you need to do.
But let me pick on that phrase that you just said right there. But do you do bootstraps with yourself? Because I tried, it only sometimes works for me. Because same as with my clients, I try to go like, oh, there's the younger boy, there's the quiet guy, play some hip hop, plays music will snap me out of it. Music will
Mm,
fucking save my life 9 out of 10 times in the
mm,
morning because that's when it hits me. I wake up with it.
mm-hmm,
And my a different executive coach that I was working with recently, um, he had a whole spiritual take on this thing, and he's like listening to one of those like ascended masters or whatever. I don't know what his spiritual path is called, but he reminded me because I was talking about the ADHD and the depression and the anxiety and all the things and how that's affecting work because he was an exec coach helping me with work. And he was like, you know what? It's so amazing. We'll do everything we do. We'll get to the end of the day, and all the wrongs we righted, and we'll get out of our depression. We'll
mm-hmm,
shave in your case or whatever. We'll just have that day, and then we go to sleep. And God damn it, if the unconscious, the subconscious doesn't just reset. And for me, it doesn't reset like, oh, brand new day. It resets like all that goodness I now have to like sort of earn back, and it's a really terrible
mm,
feeling. But
mm.
I want to hear what you think about that, or what your process is beyond that. But also beyond music, what I was doing for a while, and it was in that darkest part last year. Like I said, even if it was coming at 8 or 9 at night, I would get that energy, that fucking second wind
Mm-hmm.
when it's dark, because that's when I used to write into the evening as a kid, like till 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the sleep pattern,
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff has, all of it started in my childhood, of course, and the drawing and all that and the self-isolating. Um, I would start to leave voice messages on my cell of how good I felt the night before. And I would
Mm.
speak to myself in the second person. I'd be like, hi, morning me or morning Sean. Um,
That's
remember all
third
the
person.
third? If it's you, oh, you're right. Okay. Third. Yeah. So I would leave a message for my morning self going, I know you're going to feel like fucking dog shit tomorrow. It's
Right.
coming. It's been coming. There's only a few days now where it's not. It's okay. Here are the things that we're ruminating over tonight. And none of this is not true tomorrow. It's all true tomorrow. You just won't feel like it is. It's like a
Mm.
fucking reset from a sci-fi movie. It's like fucking not Minority Report. It's like a Groundhog Day thing. And so I would
Mm-hmm.
and I would listen to myself the next morning, and it would help because I was like, oh, that's so true.
So if you're saying, if you're talking to yourself like, you have to remember this, you have to remember that. Okay, that's second person talking to yourself. Like, but if you're like, Sean, do you know what I mean? Like Sean
Yeah,
does
yeah.
this, Sean does that. Then
Oh yeah, no, then it's more second. It's more second.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was listening to what you were saying, but then I got stuck like going, what are the viewers going to think of me?
Because we're both writers. Because we're both
right.
writers,
And I'm
you
like,
got caught up in
I
the grammar.
I
this
did.
Really great
I
fucking
did.
Great fucking tool I'm sharing, you asshole. And we get caught up on,
it was so great. And I'm sitting here like stuck in the grammar. I'm like,
phrases and shit. Why don't you do a fucking diagram? Why don't you do a sentence diagram while we're at it? The short line is the direct object. The longer line is the indirect object.
I was totally doing that in my head.
You asshole. That's all right. What's it? Name another. We're almost to an hour. What's another tool? Like some of these over here are. So that was one, and I actually shared that with a couple of folks. I was like, try this. I don't even know. I just came up with it one night because I was like, I'm in such a good way. And you know what I was doing? I think I was journaling, and then I was like, I was doing a voice journal that I'll just transcribe when I get even too lazy to type, and I type quickly, but I'm like, fuck it. And I think I was going to transcribe it, and I was like, oh, I can listen to this in the morning, and I can hear like how stoked I am right now. And so then I started making an actual practice. So I kind of stumbled upon it.
I like that.
You're still thinking of fucking question marks and punctuation. But what else though? It says journal. Does journaling snap you out, or does it kind of keep you in the mire? Is it too overwrought, or does it help you offload?
Well, it does help me offload, but I journal every morning. So I set the timer and I journal every morning. So
artist way shit.
Yep. So I have stacks and stacks of journals from years.
Oh, longhand.
Longhand. Yep.
Oh shit. You're all like fucking 7. Which, by the way, we've never worked on a critique of the Batman. We're going to have a separate podcast, everybody. It's going to be pop culture. It's going to be straight, gay, pop culture, comics, politics, brown, white, black, everything in between. That'll be our own thing eventually. But, and so we get very into movies, and we've never sat down and debated the Batman, Matt Reeves. Batman. But one part that reminded me of all your journals. First, it reminded me of 7. Then it reminded me of how the Batman ripped off 7. Just that one part. His lair, that was John Q's lair, or John Doe's lair in 7. Fuck me if I'm wrong.
Promises.
Why are you pausing? You know I'm right. All right, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent. So again, it's another podcast. What else, you fucker? I'm blushing. I've known you fucking 15 years, and I'm blushing.
I know.
Do a creative activity. I don't know. That's another
one. Yes. Well, I will say that when I'm wrestling with depression, engaging with creativity is a definite way to pull me out of it.
And what are your outlets? What are your? I mean, besides journaling, you're a writer. What else?
Well, I do collage work, and so I would say like decoupage, right? And so if I do that, it pulls me out of depression.
Nice.
Music, like you said, music is 100%.
Dude,
100%.
And so, like you were saying, when you are wrestling more than surrendering. And you know that the shower and the shave will help, but you don't. Is there shit in there somewhere? Shit, shower, shave? It's usually a 3-point process. But
usually, but like I know television does not work.
No, because you're in the couch. You're literally just sinking. That's the mire.
Deeper and deeper. Deeper.
I can't. Yes. And I love movies and I love TV, but that
so
is
do I.
A terrible way for me to go. Terrible. Nope. Wow. Okay. So that's we have that in common too. But so you're wrestling with not shaving and not showering is me not playing music. If I'm not going to just hit like De La Soul, just the whole catalog got released. I've been playing 3 Feet High and Rising over and over again, right? Me, Myself, and I. That Me, Myself, and I can snap me right the fuck out. And if I don't go to music, that's going to be a tougher day. That's going to be a tougher fucking day. Yeah.
To me, the clause where depression really has its clause is it. All of these things that you read off that list, all of these things that I know are going to pull me out of it. Don't do them. It's almost like depression says, you don't need to do that. You don't need to listen to music right now. Be miserable. You deserve to wallow for a little while.
It's so powerful, isn't it?
Yes.
And when I got at my worst last year, I did, like I said, I kind of marveled at its power, kind of like the addiction. Like now, I like respect that shit. I'm like, damn, you had me from 9 to fucking 30, whatever the fuck, right? 35. Woo, you had me. That's why I don't fuck around. That's why I have my apparatus in place, all my work and tools.
Yep.
Similarly with depression last year, I was like, wow, brain. Like it felt alien. I'm like, there is something else in my head that doesn't feel like me, but is affecting me deeply. Oh, it is me, a part of me.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's when, but instead of freaking out about it, like an episode of Black Mirror, it was more like National Geographic, like, look at the brain
Mm.
doing its thing in its natural environment and like misfiring and causing this fucker to overthink everything today. Let's watch Sean try to get out of it. So
Yeah.
I would marvel, but it
Yes.
was still hard. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I would laugh out loud while I was on my own. Sometimes I would get a little cry like, wow, dude, you are really working on me today.
Yeah.
And just try to find that one thing, like what, like you say, like finally, like what's going to get me to shave? What's going to,
Yeah.
cooking became a
Yes.
thing for me and my kids and my family during COVID, and that also helped. I would just, because it's not rote, but it's active. I'm not going on a
Active.
walk,
That's it.
but
That's
I'm
it.
having to. It's creative too, right? I'm like, ooh, if
Yes.
I put too much fucking paprika, I'm gonna like make this thing taste like a salt bomb. So, yeah.
It's interesting because when you were saying that, when you read the list to me earlier, one thing that I don't know if I heard on there or that we've talked about is reaching out and talking to someone.
It's on there. We didn't get
Oh,
to
is
it
it?
because
Okay.
we're both, but let's stick with that. Let's say it was, so we covered so many of these already. Create a list of goals. That's when, do the one thing, journal, music, creative activity. We both talked about that. Don't isolate, be around people, even if it means going to a store. That's not what you're talking about though. You're right. It's saying
No.
reach out to someone specific.
And saying, I'm depressed.
Mm.
Because it's talking to someone, it's calling them and saying, hey, this is what I feel right now. This is what I'm feeling, because that is the most vulnerable part and one of the most challenging things to talk to another person and say, hey, I'm feeling depressed.
I
It
have
might be
judgment
easy
around
like
that.
on a text. If we text and say, oh, I'm feeling depressed today, that's not the same as like if I call you on the phone and say, hey, how are you? I'm depressed today. Completely different.
Super honest and vulnerable.
Yeah.
I have judgment issues around that. Not judging you, like myself and probably others.
So
Part
me.
of why. So you are, and you have depression. So I'm judging you. Go fuck yourself. So this is gonna be really fucking candid. Part of why we were brainstorming, and I was like, what about a depression episode? Because we were kind of going to touch on similar topics, dating, this and that, recovery. We have a bunch. We got like fucking hundreds more I'm sure in our brains about this, about anything for podcasts. But I was specifically thinking of my experiences last year. I know that you have shared just like you are right now and have made calls or texts about yours. And you'll surprise me because you'll seem fine, like you're saying, via text. And then if I get you on the phone, you'll be like, no, it's been tough. And I'm like, oh fuck, I can't catch it. There's no tone. And if you don't say I'm depressed on our text thread that we share with other people for specifically that, to touch base, whether recovery or whatever, depression or anxiety, whatever, dating, anything. But I have judgment around it, probably because I still judge my own depressiveness, right? Like it's consciously I'm good. And again, with that deep dive that started last year, I'm getting better with the self-worth thing. But if I'll tell you what it is. It's grandiosity too, because I feel like I have all these tools and God damn it, I'm going to use one of them. And if I don't, it's kind of how you were mentioning the brain talking to itself, like, why don't you just wallow a little more? Why don't you just fucking shut the fuck up and not get help? And so when I hear other friends or family air it, so wow, this is really fucking contradictory. I'm gonna lose all my clients right now. I have like zero judgment with people who I know through my job, through my coaching work. In fact, my coaching, this is a little sidetrack, my coaching has affected my parenting because I'm like, if I can listen to any wild manner of stories from people who I've known a couple weeks or days, and they are like sitting down and opening themselves to me, and I'm going to offer some kind of tool or just a sounding board, just listen. I can do that with my kids. I need to apply that same thing with my friends and and other family members. And when some people come to me, and I feel like this is interesting. I wonder what you think of this, because I'm going to go a very specific way with this to get off my fucking shoulders and get it back on you. I sometimes feel like, I'm in a good way. I have good energy. I have my whole night planned out. And if I stay on this fucking phone for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, trying to hold space, and I can't right now, I might dive myself in. So I get very defensive and a little bit judgmental, and I get a little scared that I'm going to get yanked in. And it happened recently because all the things you're helping me with a letter of recommendation, all these things, I got my antlers, antlers, the fuck. I've got my lines out everywhere like I do, and trying to accomplish, 8 things at once. And I had the good energy the other night, and I was like, oh my God. And so I got a little judgy, and I had to get off the phone with someone sooner than I might have. And it felt judgy because I was like, do you have a tool? Like, here's 18 tools. Can you use one of these? And then later on, I felt bad. I probably need to make an amends. I'm probably good to make an amends and get that off my chest, because I even bounced it off someone else, a mutual, someone else, the scenario, and they kind of called me out.
Yeah.
They were kind of like, dude,
I think if we have, well, that's it. And I think even holding space for another person requires boundaries. And
that's where I get caught up. It's hard for me.
Well, that's, to me, when I hear that, that's like saying, okay, well, I can solve your problem. So I'm going to solve your problem here. So I don't need to put boundaries because I'm about to solve your problem.
It's great. It's grandiosity.
And to me, it's one of those things that says, okay, well, if somebody says, hey, do you have a moment? I have half an hour. That and at the beginning, it's setting the boundary at the very beginning. I got 15 minutes because I got to get ready for another call or whatever. So I can give you this much space, and I can hold it. I can be present and hold that amount of space for you, and it's completely being there with that person, completely,
like a session with a client.
Yeah, and you hold that space, and then it's like, I'm sorry, I have to go, but we can do this again later this week, and I can give you some times. I have this time and this time and this time, and then I let that go, and then I have to go.
Yes.
And then, yeah. But I have to set the boundaries at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. You just coached me. And this is not atypical. By the way, everyone, when I say like, oh, you just coached me, I'm not condescending. Alan is fucking sagacious. Is it sagacious or sagacious? I am fucking up with the fucking language today. Anyway,
I left the grammar Nazi behind.
Alan has some good wisdom and insight, and so I appreciate that, because I did struggle with it, and it was recent. And again, I was like, why am I cool with people I've just met in a professional setting, but I'm like judging folks. But I didn't. What I call that is when I'm going to a place and either I don't really want to go there, but it's an obligation, or I've had a bad day and I want to be there, but I know I've got some weight. I know I'm wearing a backpack, an emotional backpack. I do the, 6 and 7, and I just do like what you just said before I walk into, even my family's home, right? I know it's a different energy, right? My ex-wife, her guy, our 2 kids, they're teens. And if I've had a tough day, 8, 9, 10, certainly 15 years ago, that would have been war. But now, and I didn't do exactly what I'm saying and what you just offered to do before I got on that call. I kind of went in like begrudgingly, and then I'm putting it on the person I was talking to, as opposed to, no, I didn't set the boundaries, especially knowing ahead of time that I'm struggling with my depression and I've got good energy tonight. So I'm like, no, the depression staved off, and they are too. So let me be real clear, like you said, about how we can engage, and I can be there for you and then not resent or be pissed off at myself for letting the time just fly by. So thank you. That was really fucking helpful, actually. Really helpful.
I think that there's so much to talk about with it that it's almost like it requires a part 2.
That's fine by me. That's fine by me. I wish you. Then it's a good thing to end on because you know, again, boundaries for dealing with this, boundaries with ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a good note.
Well, I mean, to me, it's one of those things that it's like, I read lists of depressions on depression, and like, I love self-help, right? Like I've read a ton of stuff on it. And I'm a fan of therapy. I'm a fan of journaling, and I recognize that all of these tools are there. And yet depression doesn't care about any of them. Any of them. It, like, at its heart, to me, depression is like a really bad lover, that needs your attention,
but
and
isn't good to you.
But isn't good to you.
And you're stuck giving them the attention, or
right.
You can't fully.
Well, because you love them. It's one of those things because you love them. It's you. Exactly. That's it. Exactly. You love them because it's you, and usually what you're doing at that point is you're entertaining past versions of yourself. You're giving past versions of yourself the opportunity to live out their fantasy.
Their negative fantasy.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like that idea that it's sort of like, because usually it's a depression is rehashing something, right? And or that malaise, even if you've got a malaise, it's like, oh, I should have done this at work, or and there's that fantasy quality where you were letting the past version of yourself have free reign for a while.
We're fucking ending on that note. We're ending on that note. It's a great fucking conceptualizing, great, encapsulating what it feels like, and how it's so sometimes intractable, just mire stuck.
Yes,
really good. Thank you as always, Alan. We'll definitely we'll do a second one. There are plenty of notes. There's half that list left. And when we start the next one, we should front load. Just revisit all the tools we shared: the shaving, the this, the that, the running.
Yes,
just so folks
agreed.
Can have that. But thank you as always, brother.
Thank you. You have a good night.
You too.
Okay.
Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.
I hope that episode was helpful. Hey, listen, if you want to share your singlehood journey, if you've gone somewhere and come back, if you have revelations and wisdom, please share your story. It's going to help other people. Nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing other people's stories. So just send me the audio of your story, and you could just record it directly from your phone and email it to theangrytherapist@gmail.com. Also, if you want our Single on Purpose newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life. You will get tools and articles and other people's stories, and also Zoom links to private gathers. So if you want to join our community, go to singleonpurpose.life. Thank you for listening. Be well. We hope you tell a friend. Hey, before you go, I want to invite you to the Single on Purpose private community online. It's off of social media, no ads, no algorithms. We got forums, we got live groups, we got webinars, and we have social hangs. We also have offline in-person hangs happening soon. So check us out. Go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life, and I will see you inside.